Katie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hold on, because you're not coming into the... Can you say that again?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You're just not coming through the TV, so I'm trying to fix that. Can you say one more thing? Oh, no, she's not. How about again?
Yes, I'm here.
You're just coming through my computer, so give me a second. What happens when they update your computer? Can everybody hear her on that? Can everybody hear her on that?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but it's just on my computer. It's not coming through the TV for some reason.
Recording. Recording discarded.
I can do that too, see? Yeah.
Christy, do you have access to this?
Well, we can hear, it's just, it's coming through the computer, so
Do you have a cell phone?
we'll just have to proceed that way.
Ready? Put mic to the computer. I'd like to call this Bayfield Town Board meeting to order for August 20th, 2024 at 6:33. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg.
Here.
Trustee Hartz.
Here.
Trustee Katzos.
Here.
Trustee Snooks.
Here.
Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee McLaurin. And Mayor Ah.
Here. All rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance. Does the board have any conflicts of interest?
I do. On the action agenda, item A and item B.
Any others? Is there any general public input on anything that's not on the agenda?
Charlene Johnson, 251 Clover Drive. The senior center, is located down there, and we do not have our signs, have not been put back up yet. The town took the ones down by the baseball field several months ago, just a sign about like that. They have not been put back up. And then Phyllis and her husband bought a sign for about $250, and it has disappeared too. We don't know if that's a theft or the town took it down during some construction, but could someone look into where our senior center signs are, because people still, sometimes they have trouble finding us.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to find.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Gillette. I live in Bayfield. This isn't, it's on the agenda, but in executive session, so we're not part of that. So I just wanted to make a statement that since Ms. Sickles, Katie Sickles, has been hired, this town has benefited greatly from her experience and expertise in running a small government entity. And as far as I can tell, there's no legitimate reason to terminate her contract with the town. And I'm adamantly opposed to her termination. I really support her staying in her position, and I hope you all will take that under advisement when you meet. Thank you.
She's just a soft-spoken person.
I'll speak loudly. Lori Zazaro, 607 Hickory Ridge. Do any of you on the board know what it feels like to be fired from your job? I haven't been fired, but when I worked for Francisco's Restaurant in Durango, then when they went bankrupt in 2014, I was laid off unexpectedly. It's a sickening feeling. You feel betrayed, hurt, upset, scared, your stomach drops, you feel sick. How do you explain this to your family? When I got in my car to go home, I was shaking and crying. I never want to be in the position to make someone feel this way. When I worked for San Juan Basin Public Health as an HR generalist, part of my job was to manage employee terminations. We never had any that were immediate. Staff were almost always on a performance action plan, and they either were unable to or refused to follow the plan, which led to their termination of employment. For me, as an HR generalist, it was also always heart-wrenching to see this happen, and it was one of the most unenjoyable parts of my job in HR. There's no satisfaction in knowing that someone no longer has health insurance or income to support their family, pay their rent or mortgage, or put food on their table. I share these stories with you because a lot of us don't understand the unexpected motion that was made at the last board meeting, nor the executive session discussing our town manager's employment and termination of this afternoon. Did something egregious happen that the citizens are unaware of? Has our town manager been on a performance action plan for the past 4 months since this new board took office? We, the people who this board represents, want to understand why this is happening and see the evidence to support these actions. If I understand correctly, the town board can decide not to renew the town manager's contract at the end of the contract cycle. Planning can start now to find a replacement if that is the wish of the town board. There are many costs associated with termination of this contract. Why is the contract being terminated early? There are over 2,800 citizens in the town of Bayfield. There are many of us here tonight who do not understand the motions and executive session on the agenda tonight. We elected this board to represent our interests. We support the continued employment of our town manager, at least until the end of her contract. Does the board even have a third of the town's citizens who support this early termination? Again, this room is full of people tonight. They're here for many reasons, but most of us are here because we don't want to see this course of action come to pass. Please reconsider.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana. Trustees, the term trustees comes from the word trust. In the dictionary, trust is defined by reliance on the character, ability, strength, and truth of someone or something, one in which confidence is placed, something committed or entrusted to one to be used or cared for in the interest of another. You're here for us. Regarding the boards in general, not just you, but all boards, whether it's in Avon, Vale, or here, When a person decides to run, they should be understanding of the commitment that you take. When a person accepts a position, then they should be understanding of the responsibility you take. The commitment is, I want to do this. You expressed that desire to us when we elected you. You wanted this job. The responsibility is, I will do this job without prejudice, without agenda, without personal gain or retribution. You agreed to that. You took an oath to that. If a person cannot commit to or take the responsibility, then they should either not run or you should resign and step down. Thank you.
Good evening. Alaric Hutchinson here of 498 South Church Street. I'm president of the Bayfield's Chamber of Commerce, and I own commercial property on Mill Street. I'm here tonight in support of Town Manager Katie Sickles. To start, I have been incredibly impressed with Katie's competency, resourcefulness, and communication over the years. I have had numerous questions come up, both for the Chamber and as a property owner, which she always addressed swiftly and with quality guidance. For example, I was impressed when I received a direct call from her about the Mill Street sidewalk project, since it affected me, and she took time to let me know about it and answer any question I had. Another time, she reached out inviting me to participate in the Bayfield Middle project so I could offer my voice in the continued direction of our downtown's restoration. Both of these instances could be easily dismissed as they were simple calls, but in fact, they showed her character and desire for transparency and inclusion. As president of the Chamber of Commerce, I've also been deeply appreciative of Katie's support of the needs of local businesses and her summer block parties with the town. What I've seen from Katie is a willingness to cooperate and do her best to manage and meet the wants and needs of our town. And it's a tall order and a tough, often thankless job because it's impossible to make everyone happy. However, the motion to remove her as town manager last meeting appeared as a blindside and done in an unkind, haphazard manner. As a member of the public looking in, it came across more as a personal attack rather than a professional decision made in the best interest of our town. My final note is that whether we like it or not, Bayfield is experiencing growing pains, and our nation itself is still struggling to find its footing as we navigate changing economic times. We're not able to go backwards, nor can we stop all progress forward. Resistance to change only causes more stagnancy and harm while keeping us unprepared for the future. Katie is highly competent and can continue to help us navigate these changes our town needs to be prosperous while maintaining our small town charm and strong community engagement. Thank you.
Big Mouth Ludwig is back. Phyllis Ludwig, 9205 County Road 521. There are a lot of things that go on behind closed doors. And things have been done in this town before you guys even came, before you were on the board. This should not have been done. I'm a witness to that, and I think that we should respect your judgment, because we don't know all that goes on. Thank you.
Lori Lazari, and I live down from Cinnamon Heights in Bayfield. What I'm going to talk about is regarding the stormwater from last time. And can you speak up, please? You speak up. I'm trying to. Well, does this help? Yeah. Okay. Back in March of 2021, the town of Bayfield bought 30 lots on Cinnamon Heights for workforce housing. This was done behind closed doors. Nobody knew about it until 2 months later, May of 2021. It was announced in the Durango Herald, and then May 8th it appeared on Facebook, and that's how we found out. The money came from the sewer fund. It was $1 million for 30 lots. Now, 3.5 years later, there's still no building on Cinnamon Heights. It's just lying dormant, not doing the town any good. And I believe the town should begin selling this land And it's worth a lot more now because 3.5 years later. Plus, I do know, I've heard that a lot of engineering has happened, so that increases the value of the land for anybody who needs to build on it. I think none of the people in Bayfield, none of the builders are going to be able to afford half of it, all of it, but they could buy 1 or 2 lots at a time, and they can use that money for the Dove Ranch's stormwater issues. And just for the record, this did not occur under this Board of Trustees or this mayor. It was the prior Board of Trustees, the prior mayor. And so I would just like to see that land sold.
Any other
My name is Josh Joswick. I live at 64 South Los Pinos Drive here in Bayfield, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Bingo. I'm familiar enough with how governmental bodies deal with personnel issues to know that to ask about the details of agenda item 8D, I know better than to ask about that, because you all will be privy to the details and we, the public, will not. And that's just the way of things. But I do have a couple of comments about this effort to rid the town of its manager. When the League of Women Voters held their candidates forum before our April town board and mayor election, the question was asked, was the town manager an issue? None of the candidates present, none, said that she was an issue or that they had an issue with her. Now, a mere 4 months later, evidently something has been discovered that is so egregious that termination is warranted. 4 months, that's pretty good detective work. There should be very good reasons for pursuing this, and in my humble opinion, if the town manager has not done the job the board has directed her to do, or has engaged in financial malfeasance, or has done something morally reprehensible, or has not been, or has been so unethical that the trustees cannot justify keeping her on, those would be considered good reasons. And now I'll tell you what aren't good reasons. She got crossways with some of the people in the town, and they don't like her. You don't like her. Promises were made by candidates during the last campaign to get rid of her, and that's a hell of a thing to not to admit to. Those are not good reasons. Those are not valid reasons. Those are petty reasons coming from a broader agenda. You already have lost a highly qualified planning director when we need one badly. With all the development going on and all that's being proposed, we can't just wing it. Now you're going to go after the town manager. Do you understand the impact of shakeup and replacement, both organizationally and financially? There's a popular philosophy going around that holds that government is bad. Local, state, federal, doesn't matter, broad brush, government's bad. And I know there are people here tonight who believe that. And if you hold with that philosophy, and if you're on that board, that is the kind of government that you are going to create. Bad government. And I know that from having seen it. I've seen what happens when people who think government is bad govern. And to what end? I don't get it. If for political, philosophic reasons you want chaos, you're well on your way to achieving that goal. And the residents of Bayfield, the people you serve, do not benefit from it, nor do they deserve it. Thank you very much. I would like this submitted for the record.
David Black, 606 Buck Highway. At the outset of the last meeting, the mayor was pretty dismissive of the audience. Okay, I'll try to speak up here. The mayor was very dismissive of the audience the last meeting. my feeling was that the entirety of that stormwater question should have been continued to the next meeting, because there was so much misinformation out there that it was literally egregious in misinformation that was circulating. There was an executive session scheduled, so certainly you guys had something in mind. Let's speak a little bit to this issue of the executive session you have scheduled for this evening about the town manager. What's this going to cost the town? A lot if you go through with it, a lot. I mean, we're talking, you know, $75,000 maybe. Easy, easy. You know, the integrity of this board seems to be lacking. And it appears from the outside looking in that there was some kind of occlusive effort beforehand to force the town manager out. The biggest loss will be the institutional knowledge. And to lose that knowledge right there, that's unbelievable. So going forward, we'll have to engage in more expense to hire not just a planner, but a town manager. And if you do this, Katie will deserve every bit of a severance package she can squeeze out of you guys. So let's talk about one more cost. That's the cost of a recall election. Because we can certainly do that. It only takes 82 signatures to force the question. Enough said.
Mary Benson, 723 Lupine Drive. I'm here to advocate for Katie Sickles. In the time that I've been involved in town matters, I find her highly competent. I find her very comprehensive. In the park committee, she's been instrumental. I have seen her day and night working at all the events and doing all the things. So I just don't quite understand it. And I just want you to know that I think that she's a, really great employee.
Hi, Sarah Goldman, 1640 South Taylor Circle. I also am here to support Katie, and I don't have a prepared statement, but I can see who's paying attention and who's not as people are up here talking. I appreciate those of you who meet our eyes and are taking our thoughts into consideration. I don't know exactly what caused this motion to be made last time, but the way it went down seems not right to me. If Katie has done anything so egregious that she should lose her job, that should have been dealt with in a personnel matter in terms of having her remediate it rather than just going straight to termination. I don't know what happened, but those are my thoughts just coming from the outside, and I think it'd be very difficult to replace her with someone as knowledgeable, prepared for the job, and willing to work for what we can afford to pay someone in this community. Thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Charlene Thomas, 523 Hickory Ridge. I've been involved with this board since about 2020 before becoming a member of the board. During this time, I've observed firsthand the sins of the past that Katie has corrected. She took on this overwhelming role as a trial and chose to stay here. Sorry. She could have easily jumped ship. Most of us would have. I mean, just the year I was on a board, I was like, wow, we have a mess. And she's worked her butt off. to fix it. She firmly loves our town, and she has the best interests of this community at heart. Every single meeting, she would provide background, insight, and options to the issues the town was facing. She always took direction of the board. She never gave you her opinions. You never knew what Katie was thinking. She gave you the information. And it was on you guys to move forward. She's very transparent, no hidden agenda, does not rely on any falsified information. She provides the information to the board, they make a decision, that is her job. She's worked tirelessly to balance our budget last year. We got a board, we were at a loss. We didn't know what to do. We have some, issues with our general fund. Katie worked her butt off to get our budget balanced. Sorry. I'm very concerned about the out of the blue motion to remove Katie from her role, stating she does not have the best interests of the board at heart. No mention of our town, the board. I've heard rumors when this board was elected that their sole mission was to terminate Katie. I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I had a lot of faith in a lot of people up here. But it appears to me there's been some stuff going on outside of these meetings, completely unethical. I'd also heard people weren't excited about her salary. I want to do her job for $1 million a year. I don't think any of you would. The cost of replacing Katie, you can't measure that. She's done way too much. And if you think you can, I wish you luck. Has anybody tried to hire anybody lately? I fully support Katie Sickles remaining as our town manager. Removing her would serve a negative impact to our community. We've already lost a valuable team member in Nicole, other team members. We can't afford to lose Katie. I believe the people who do not have the best interests in our town at heart are Trustee Nyberg, Trustee Hartz, Trustee Snooks, and Mayor Ah. You can't even look at your people. And me and many other community members request their immediate resignation.
Any other public input? Moving on to the public hearing. Taco Boy liquor
Approve
liquor
agenda.
I'm sorry.
Approve agenda.
I always miss that.
I know, it's because it's right after the red writing.
I know,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katzos?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. Now we will move on to public hearing. Taco Boy liquor retail license?
No, you skipped over me.
Oh, it's on the paper one. It's not on the one they emailed us.
Huh?
It's on the paper. one.
Lucy's on the paper one. They didn't email
One
one to
H.
us.
Okay, I'm sorry, Lucy, I didn't see that.
That's okay. Don't worry
I
about it.
apologize.
So, good evening, everybody. And the reason was asked to be put on the board is I did visit with Nicole and try to figure out what's going on with that property in the old Haga because of the big ponds that are up there and how we got flooded out. And I kind of understand a little bit, but I don't understand how these ponds are going to help our subdivision and our homes right below that. And I'd like to know who's going to oversee them. Because since this last rain that we've had, I haven't seen that they at least one good thing, they didn't use the pumps to pump the water down our field. But what's going to happen when that property is totally developed and those ponds are full of water? What is the town going to do for us?
Those ponds are supposed to release the water at a slow rate and not have it spill out real quickly, like the pumps were doing. The state came back and told us that they went back to the developers and said, quit pumping the water out for now. But the ponds are designed to release the water slowly and not all at once.
So what's that thing that they put out there? How's that going to help that water to be slower release or whatever that, I don't know what, understand what that.
Mayor,
round
I can try and address that for her. So when we had the last storm, that pond was not developed fully. They were still working on it, and so they didn't have what's called an outlet structure. And that outlet structure is what releases the water at a historic rate. And so when they were pumping, they were releasing it at the pumping rate, which is not what the historic rate was. So we did, after you had come at the August 6th meeting, I had my engineer go out and take a look at it because they did finish installing that structure, and that's called the outlet structure. And so they finished installing that, and now we have to see what a storm does because we haven't had something since it was installed. But what it should do is the ponds will fill up, and the state gives us 72 hours before they have to release that water, because our water, we're in what's called a water critical zone. So all our stormwater has to end up back in the river for downstream users. And so they still have to get that water to the river. And so that outlet structure will release it, but at a slower rate, at a historic rate, versus just what the pumps were doing and flooding it out. And so it should be a smaller release, but they only have 72 hours to do that, or the state will come down on them because it is a water critical zone. Now, that pond right now is going to be HOA owned. The board's going to be discussing, after they adopted that stormwater fee, what projects they're going to be taking on. Are they going to be taking on the HOA ponds? And so that's yet to be determined by the board. So right now the HOA will be responsible to maintain that outlet structure, make sure there's no debris in it so that it's constantly working out how it's supposed to, and removing any sediment in the ponds. But if the town ever takes that over, we will have somebody going out there and doing regular inspections of all the ponds. So again, that's going to be up to the board at a future time. So right now the HOA will be responsible for that pond.
So in other words, nothing's going to be resolved. We're going to be right back to where we were before many years ago. You know, since I moved in '77, we've had issues because people think they know what they're doing. And I don't know how much money the town spent in trying to figure that water problem and put in directional wells, 3 of them in that field behind the church, trying to figure out why we were having these water issues. And then when Jerry Hager realized what was going on, he stepped in and did his job. But now we're back to square one. Every time we turn around, we get messed up in the middle. Our properties, our houses are suffering for it.
Well, and again, hopefully this will relieve some of that, because I know there was also water coming in from other sources beyond this property, and our engineers required this property to maintain the water that was coming from off their off-site properties. So, for instance, water coming from under the gas station, going under a culvert under Bayfield Parkway, they now actually have to maintain that and release it at the historic rates as well. So hopefully these ponds will actually reduce a lot of that water that was coming in from different sources into that one location now, and releasing it at a historic rate versus water that's just moving through fast.
Anything was done on that northeast corner of that property. Nothing's been done with the water. There's still, throughout this little bit of rain that we've had, that water has sat in that corner. And then they took the equipment over there and dug a trench. So that really helps a lot, because it's just sitting there. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, they haven't.
Nobody's addressed that issue.
Yeah, they haven't moved to that phase yet.
I don't have faith that it's going to be addressed.
Okay. Well, they haven't even started that northeast phase yet. They're still working on the phase that's closest to your property. And so that pond will be required on that area, when they start developing in that area, they'll have another pond in that area on that northeast side.
And another thing, since you guys are adding all this water and taking good care of everything, the mosquitoes need to be sprayed. When was the last time those mosquitoes been sprayed? When that water gets put in that field, we are swarmed by the mosquitoes. I don't care what you do. And I don't think we've had this mosquito spray. And you know what? With all that water, I wouldn't even wish it on you. But I think that you guys need to take that into consideration. And the reason I wanted to be on the agenda is for when next time I come, I will bring an attorney to go after the town because of what it's doing to my home. Good night.
Public hearing for the Taco Boy liquor retail license.
Yeah, so the applicant is present tonight in the room, and they've got their paperwork in for the transfer of ownership for the liquor license from Taco Boy LNS LLC to Taco Boy Bayfield LLC. We had a little bit of hang up getting the lease. We do have a copy of that lease. The state does require that, and all the paperwork's ready to go. I have reached out to the other departments, and there was no negative feedback.
Does the board have any questions, concerns?
No.
Any public comment on the Taco Boy liquor retail license? Okay, we'll close that public hearing. Public hearing on ordinance 503 vacation rentals.
Yeah, so this is an item that I reached out to the board last month to see if you were interested in revisiting our vacation rental ordinance. Back in 2022, we did some amendments to that ordinance, including setting a density cap of 30 units total within the town limits. Since then, we have now 8 vacation rentals that have been legalized, and just this summer we had 4 that came before the Planning Commission all in a row. So I asked the board if you were still comfortable with 30 or if you wanted to look at something different, knowing that in the future, if you do want to change that, you can always go back through a text amendment and make that change to the land use code. And so the board had thrown out the number of 15 that you felt comfortable with. And so I did draft the ordinance. I took it to the Planning Commission last week, and they did vote to approve that ordinance to reduce the vacation rental number total in the town limits from 30 to 15. And so that's that item. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions from the board? No. Concerns? Any public input? Moving on to ordinance 504, sign regulation.
Yes, so this was another item I had asked the board if you were interested in looking at. If you recall, a month ago, Porky's had come in for a sign variance with the Planning Commission because our sign code changed in 2019, and it dropped all of our commercial signs from a maximum of 25 feet to 10 feet. And then along the when we started reviewing and analyzing Porky's sign variance, you know, the highways raised in that location all along Highway 160 is raised. And so 10-foot sign would be below the highway grade essentially. And so the Planning Commission did approve the variance, and they asked the town to look at maybe bringing back the pole sign height along the highway corridor and along the highway frontage road to allow a larger sign there. So staff, when I came to the board, you had said maybe research some other communities in our region along the highway to see what their sign codes say. So I did research Cortez and Mancos, Durango, and Pagosa. And Cortez being the exception, but the other 3 all had a maximum height of 20 feet in the majority of their highway corridor. Pagosa, because they're downtowns along the highway, they did reduce it in that area, but otherwise 20 feet. So that's what staff's proposing for our commercial signs along the Highway 160 corridor and along the highway frontage road. Again, for commercial, so non-residential signs, proposing 20 feet maximum.
I have a question. So, of the existing signs, do we know how tall they are?
I don't. We allowed 25 feet. I have a feeling some of them are taller than that if you look at some of those gas station signs. So that would be something that we might want to deal with, but I couldn't find any sign codes that had anything taller than 25, so I don't know how, unless they got variances, I don't know how they were approved to be taller than 25 feet. Because I went back through all our old sign codes and I couldn't find anything. So, and again, 20 feet seems reasonable at the highway with that elevation. If you want to do 25, I mean, that's up to you. But I still think some of those signs will not be in compliance, and if they ever do want to change the sign face, they either would need to drop it a couple feet, just cut that pole off and lower it, or they would need to ask for a variance. And that's up to you. You know, at some point, signs get so high, you really don't see them very much when you're driving by. So there's a happy middle in there for some of those signs, especially like, you know, I was thinking about even Bayfield Center. People aren't looking up at tall signs. They're looking straight ahead at the road. So 10 feet makes sense in some of those lower speed roads. The highway being elevated, I think, lends itself to higher signs. But that's up to you if you want to do 20 or if you want to go back to that 25. I didn't have any way of measuring them all, so I couldn't tell you where they land. I'd say some of them do appear to be higher, though, than even 25.
Well, it would seem to me that we would just want to grandfather in the ones that are higher and not make them reduce in size. And having a 20-foot sign, we want to bring people in. We want them to spend their money here. So any way that we can, you know, sell the town and its amenities, I think that's great. And we don't want people to miss out on, we want to support our businesses any way that we can. So maybe there's a way to grandfather in the 25?
So they are.
Okay.
But when they come to change their sign face, like say the gas station changes to a new name, then they have to come into compliance with the current code.
Okay.
But otherwise, if they remain the same, they're grandfathered. And so that's, if you're interested in going a little higher than 20, I would say, you know, you should do that. Then otherwise, they're going to have to come to you for a variance if they want to replace a sign face on a pole that's over 20 feet, if you adopt the 20 feet.
But again, any ordinance that you adopt is prospective in its enforcement. Okay?
Any other questions? Any public input? Okay, we'll close that public hearing. Move on to the Colorado liquor retail license and renewal. Taco Boy liquor retail license is first.
As we talked about that a little bit a minute ago, the applicant was here and all the paperwork is turned in and ready to go to the state. I just need signature authority from the board.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Taco Boy liquor retail license.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katzos?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. Hans Garden liquor license renewal.
You'll see in your memo there, I did reach out to the department heads for their input on getting this one renewed. Their time has come to renew with the state, and there was no negative input from staff.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Hong's Garden liquor license renewal.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katzos?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. Committee updates. Mary Benson, PARC.
Mary Benson, 723 Lupine. I am here representing the Park Committee. So I'm going to read off my notes because there's been a lot of things that have been done and I don't want to miss anything. So, okay. Now can you hear me? Okay. I'm Mary Benson. I'm here representing the Park Citizens Committee and to give you an activity and progress update. So I'm sure you'll recall that the Board of Trustees statement of direction for Park was given on June 17th of this year. During our first meeting on June 27th, we went over the board's directed agenda, and I wanted to read off those items for the people who may not know what those items were. So the first one was related to the Master Park Plan Survey and the Comp Plan Planning Participation and 2015 Community Assessment. And it was regarding the input at that time that there might be an appetite for a tax to be able to provide the Master Park Plan. So we were asked to get the word out, or how can we, find out if that's still the case. Prioritize the master park plan elements. What elements of the master park plan should be replaced, updated, or included in the current operational budget prior to funding the greater plan? And then the committee should consider a rec center, the size, the elements, the budget, the location, and the funding. So immediately after this meeting, a survey was developed to solicit feedback from the public to move towards these goals. And mainly because how do we prioritize the park plan or the elements or the rec center without knowing what the public thought? So we asked them a series of questions. There weren't very many. We asked them to rank the elements, and those elements were taken from the conceptual design, from highest to lowest priority. We offered an NA option. In that NA option, it meant that they were selecting that because they don't have a particular interest in that element at all. And then we did add in a couple of elements that we thought might potentially be part of a rec center, so that we didn't have to go back and pulse them again. So to understand the public's standing on funding, we asked them about what was the parts that were most important to them, how should the costs be covered? And so we gave them several options, so special district tax, sales tax increase, property tax increase, private donations, and then we did a combo. So a combination of minimal sales tax, matching grant funding, and private donations was one. A combination of property tax increases, matching grant funding, and private donations, and then don't fund anything was an option. So as of right now, we have 187 people who've responded to the survey. The highest ranked on funding was the combination of the sales tax, grant funding, and private donations combo. Two more questions were asked related to the rec center components. One was about like an aquatics, because that could be something, or a pool, that could be something as part of a rec center. So were they interested in that? The other one was about out of school time, Monday through Thursday, because that doesn't exist, and that could be potentially something in a rec center. And then the last question was about demographics. Are they in the town limits or outside of the town limits? So 89% said that they wanted the committee to go ahead and do a little bit of touching base with the parties about the after-school care between Monday and Thursday. 66% were within the town limits, and 34% were outside of the town limits as far as what's been presented so far, or received so far. To get the word out, we did flyers. We put it in the town billing, their newsletter. We've posted those flyers in local businesses. We were at all the events, so the ice cream, the 4th of July, we put it on primarily Facebook and Nextdoor as far as getting it on social media, and we wanted it in the newsletter so that we could get people who may not be on social media, but they get the town bills. Every time that we do a touch base with people or out there, doing these activities, we have seen an uptake in responses, so it's being effective. 8 citizens have actively participated in the committee so far. Town representatives have also been at meetings to help answer our question and give us the initial direction from the board. We've met 3 times so far, and our next meeting is this Thursday. And I just want to thank everybody who has come out and has participated and has done these different activities so that we can get this feedback. A committee member created a timeline of our key milestones. The survey will close at the end of October. We're working towards the July date in case this does go to the ballot. So we're trying to get some recommendations to you all and have these things kind of done by that time. There were 4 comments made on the survey results about stormwater, and I'm bringing that up because it's part of this agenda tonight, and they felt that they should be addressed before we did the master park plan. Regarding the out-of-school care, we did reach out, a couple of us, to the Boys and Girls Club CEO, Vaughn Morris. And so there's probably 9 people that he's recommending that we reach out to, including town representatives, other key, like library and different things that are providing services now, so that we can do a collaboration together. So that would be one of our next steps. After the survey closes, we would be trying to get you your prioritization of the elements and recommendations, and we have some information in the surveys that talk about the pricing back in 2023, so we can kind of go off of that a little bit and kind of let you know a little bit about the budget as what we see it. We're going to continue with outreach efforts, and we're also going to reach out to other towns who are doing these types of things, like the rec centers and things like that, to see if they, you know, how they did it, what were their best practices and things like that. I think that that's everything. Do you have questions back for me?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you. I mean, that's a lot of work you put into it. So I really appreciate that you did that for the citizens so that they have a say in it.
Thank you.
The planning's been impressive. The fact that you keep getting updates on the survey is fabulous. And I think that this is what it takes, is getting the word out, getting the word out. We hear so often people that come to town meetings say, I never knew about that.
Right.
So you're doing an exceptional job with that. And I think having 187 thus far respond,
Yeah.
good work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
impressed. Good job.
Thank you. I think that there's some things that we can do with FAQs, because there are some questions that are coming in. There's some things I think people are just not aware of, so we'd like to work on that to get more communication out so that they understand things like how does the special district work, and all of those different things that people don't really understand. And so we'll start working on that as well.
Awesome. Thanks,
Very
Mary.
good.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Approval of minutes and department reports. August 6, 2024 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes dated August 6, 2024.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katzos?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees. I did prepare a report for you guys for this meeting. I guess to start off, you did notice I didn't have the production and the sewer flow charts in there. The treatment operator that used to produce those for us moved on, so we ran into a little bit of technical difficulty with some time constraints going in. But I can definitely have them back in the next meeting if you thought those guys, they were useful. I thought it was a pretty good snapshot of what we were doing as far as the water. So that'll be included in next month's report. We'll get those straightened out with current operations. Just a couple things. Water meter replacement from under structures. We did confirm 1497 scratched off the list. We have 2 more locations, and we're going to try and complete those this month in August. The big thing coming up is chip seal. So we're doing a large chip seal project. It's going to be starting the 22nd. They got notifications out today. But it is going to impact school traffic, so you might hear some grumbles. We did talk to transportation, and they'll be chip sealing starting this Thursday and then the beginning of next week. So it's going to be a little hokey for a little bit on that bus route. We're doing Sawyer Drive, Cedar, and the upper portion of Mountain View, which is directly in the bus route. It won't hinder traffic, but there may be some delays, just so you're aware of that.
Hey, Jeremy, I don't know who does it, but can we maybe get some extra social media posts about the potential for the traffic for students getting to school?
Yeah, we can definitely post something on Facebook. They actually put out door-to-door notifications today, And so we're going to email out to the school district as well, letting them know. The bus route should run the same routes. There just might be some lane closures in there, like one lane road. So that's coming up. We had another 105 locates this month, so construction's been super busy. We're averaging about that, if not more. Really uptick. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys had any.
I saw the signs. I thought they were very effective for the chip seal. They did a good job.
So
They're
yeah.
out there.
Yeah, A1, we've been using the same contractor for the last few years. We signed a multiple year with option to renew contract, and they've done a really good job for us.
Yeah, they have.
I think they've been good with their public notification and traffic control. So, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Chief of Police.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, July was a very busy month for us. If you look at the stats, I think the total events was the highest we've had since I've been here. We've been doing a lot of more progressive policing, being in our neighborhoods, calling out more, doing a lot more vehicle stops, and just being out enforcing traffic, so we're making the town safer. So we've been focusing on that for the past couple of months, and it seems, we also have 2 guys in training, so they're out there under shifts trying to do everything they can as well. But we did have a very busy month. 4th of July, we had a very excellent turnout at the park. We really had 0 issues law enforcement related, but that was based because street department's running the streets, fire department's doing their business, Dustin's doing his side. Everybody's doing their thing, pulling together. It was a very safe atmosphere. We had a couple issues that we're probably going to tweak out next year, but other than that, it was overall a very good event for us. We are currently in the process of accepting applications for an open position. Officer Moreland transitioned into our new school resource officer. He just completed school last week, and then this week is his first week in the schools fully. So he's doing very well, and I think he really enjoys it. I enjoy him being there. Officer Lee and Officer Rittenhouse are in their 3rd phase of training now. I know this said 2nd, but as of right now, they're in their 3rd phase of training. They got about 4 weeks of that. Then they'll go into the ghost phase, and then they'll be released. Outside of that, I found out today that Southwest Training Board will be putting on a first line supervisor course in November, and we're going to send 2 officers there to get them built up for the next one. And Officer Jun just graduated the Reed interview course. So if she starts talking to you, make sure you're wearing sunglasses. Okay. Other than that, everything's going very well over there. I'm super appreciative of who I have and how everything is working out.
Any questions? Thank you. Community Development Director.
Yeah, so just a couple things. Been working on the ag zoning. We have our 2nd working group meeting tomorrow night here at Town Hall at 5:30. Staff's drafted an ordinance or drafted code language, land use code language for that zoning, and we're just going to have the group review that, go over it, make sure it meets what everybody was expecting to see out of that. As one of my last things, I would like to get that to the Planning Commission and Board of Trustees in September. The other one is the Dark Skies program. I know we had our Dark Sky event at the library earlier this year and had a great turnout. And as part of working towards that process, I won't be here to finalize that, but I'd like to get a lighting code into the board in September as well. So drafting that right now. So hopefully you will see those at the September meetings. Pine River Commons has just applied for 5 more units, so another townhome building, and so we're reviewing that right now and hoping to get that completed soon. And then I know the board heard this already, but we did apply for them just because they are proposing workforce housing, deed restricted workforce housing for our community. The board had given town staff permission to apply for some grant funding for them, and we did receive $2 million for public infrastructure. So this is the infrastructure that the town's ultimately going to own in the future. But that's exciting. So working on trying to get that contract from the state, from DOLA, so that they can start utilizing that funding. O'Reilly Auto Parts is almost ready for a building permit. We're just finalizing their site plan review and building permit. So I would say in the next couple weeks, they will be probably under construction. And this is going to be located just east of the Family Dollar. Yeah, on Bayfield Center. The Planning Commission did approve a new vacation rental last month. So it's located at 83 South Mesa. So that brings it to 8. I do have a list of active vacation rentals by address on the website. So if anyone's ever interested in what's been approved, there is a list under community development on the website. And then the Planning Commission also did appoint Brian Gadd as a new chair and Chris O'Shea Heidinger as a new vice chair at their August 13th meeting. And then unfortunately, we also got the resignation of Tish Nelson, which is included in your packet. And we are advertising, so if anybody's interested in being on the town's Planning Commission, where you'll be able to see all the land use projects coming through the town and be able to help make land use decisions, talk to Kristen or email Kristen. And she's accepting the applications which do go through the Planning Commission, and ultimately the Board of Trustees approves those appointments. And that's what I have.
Any questions?
It may not be a question for you, it may be a question for Homes Fund, but I know somebody in the Fox Farm development called Homes Fund to find out, and they said they weren't deed restricted.
Fox Farm is deed restricted.
No, Pine River Commons.
Oh, they're still working through the process, but
So
they are going to be deed restricted. So the first 5 that they built will probably not, because they started that before they had the grant funding, and the grant does not retroactively cover. But everything moving forward will be deed restricted units, and so they are accepting applications for deed restrictions.
They are now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So they can, I think you can go to their website, Pine River Commons website, and there's information on there on the process.
Okay, I'll let her know. But those first 5 are not deed restricted.
As far as I know, because they had no requirement. There was no grant funding over those, so they had no requirement currently. They may be. It depends on how they pencil out with those. But with the grant funding moving forward, the ones that they're going to use for that, they are required to have deed restrictions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Moving on to the financial agenda. July 2024 financial statement.
Kathy. Good evening. So the financial statements that were included in your packet are for, are for the month of July. The general fund, we have received county and city sales tax for the month of May, as well as the second half of property taxes, cigarette tax, our share of motor vehicle taxes collected by the county. The reimbursement request was submitted and payment was received for the second quarter and final payment of the JAG Policing Expansion Grant. We received $25,500, the JAG grant for the body-worn cameras. We spent $36,267 in capital improvement projects in the general fund, which included expenses for the master park plan, the police department's storage container, and the Spillman program. We have received our second payment of the carry-out bag fees. We have 2 local businesses that are required to pay that, and both of those are it's the $2 stores. So we have, and they're required to do it on a quarterly basis. So we have received our second second payment, which totaled a whole $326. The fund is currently $215,000 expenditures over revenue, but we are, however, 2 months behind on collection of sales tax, and we have not received our reimbursement for this quarter's SRO money from the school district or our HIDA grant from the county. The sewer fund is trending as expected. Plant investment fees have exceeded expectations by about $20,000. This fund, we did make the second of our 2 annual loan payments, so you won't see that expense again, but that is why that fund looks a little low as well. But that will be recouped in the next month or so. The Capital Improvement Fund, we received the final reimbursement of $127,853 for the broadband grant. The Water Fund, penalties and interest are still trending really high, which means we're collecting a lot of penalties and interest for late utility payments. Plant investment fees in that fund have also more than doubled the expectations at this point. And the second payment of the 2 annual loan payments came out of this account as well, and you won't see that expense again this year. In the street fund, we've received May's city sales tax, our HUTF dollars, and the second quarter of county road and bridge funds. We received the grant reimbursement of $150,000 for the East Sidewalk project. This fund is currently $664,000 expenditures over revenue. This balance is due to a lag in the collection of sales tax and grant reimbursements, along with the capital improvement projects that were meant to spend down the refunds in this fund. As always, most all of the funds are seeing computer, hardware, software, internet being on the high side and pushing the budgeted limits. Total interest earned this year, or this month, for our Call a Trust accounts, our investment accounts, was $46,000, or $46,276. Sales tax continues to be strong and moving in a positive direction. That's all I have, unless you have some questions.
I want to thank you for doing as I asked last time and kind of explaining it a little bit better on this. So great job on that. I'd like to see maybe at the end of the year kind of what the trend is on the late fees, to see if there's something we can do to kind of help people, or, you know, I don't know what that looks like or anything like that, but I'd like more information about that. Thank you.
One of the things that was brought up at the budget session at the Colorado Municipal League was that a red flag for the board was not reviewing any expenditures year-to-date to budget that were over what they're supposed to be, at least, and we're supposed to be doing that at least on a quarterly basis. I'm glad to see that we're getting this on a regular basis, so I just have a couple of questions about that, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
So just with expenses, administrative wages and benefits in the administrative department, we're almost 100% of, 95% of our budget for overtime expenses. Can you tell me what contributed to that?
Give me 2 seconds.
Yep. I know I kind of caught you off guard.
That's okay. Are you looking at your financial statement?
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 59 of the, page 5 for you.
Okay. Well, I would say that there's only $1,500 budgeted in that line item to begin with. I honestly, without looking at payroll, I can't tell you who that's for.
So I can tell you that it's all 4th of July.
Oh, yes, okay.
So if
There
you
go.
look at it, it's all in 4th of July, and that's what happens when we have employees that are non-exempt that are working for those holidays.
So that's capped out
Yes.
for the year.
Well, it's not capped out.
But-
Keep in mind that all of the labor and expenditures is still at less than 50%.
The HSA employer contribution, I noticed that's trending high, like over 100% on all, pretty much in
That
every
was
department.
that was the fee, the credit that we got from the insurance company that was credited back to the employees based on the board's request and that resolution. So they're going to be a little bit higher. However, all salary and wages are still trending less than 50%, or most of them are less than 50%.
Town hall operations, supplies are at 153%.
Are you on something else? Where'd you go? You went from admin wages and benefits to where?
That's page 6.
She's on the next page.
I'm on the next page.
Sorry, I'm just trying to
I'm
follow
not going
along.
through every line, no. Just the ones that are out of whack. That's all they recommended,
Oh,
was
the internet?
touching base with those.
So supplies, I would just have to open Cassell and find out what's in there. A lot of times, especially when we just hired a new facilities and grounds person, they may be quoting things into supplies and should be going in a different location. We can certainly look at that and give you an idea of what's in there.
And then the computer hardware and software, that's all part of switching over to DataSafe.
Well,
the
that's all the
DataSafe
data
presentation.
billing, yes. And software and hardware and IT has been hard to keep up with, and it's going to get harder as technology continues to be more expensive.
Do we have money to cover these additional costs that we're over?
Well, your general fund is still, your funds are still okay. They're still trending in where we expected them at this time. So if you go down to, let me just find the page. If you go down to page 65, the expenditures are 41%. So, and we're 58% of the year. So that is still fine.
Right. Overall, we're fine.
Right.
Yes, and that's yes.
Let's see, going back up, just lost my place. Police department, personnel relations. What does that entail? 121% of budget we're at 58% of the year.
It's live with our flyers or giveaways and stuff like the stuff that we give away at some of the block parties and other things like that for us to promote our agency.
No, it's for personnel, so it's probably for hiring. I'm sorry, can you just give me a page that would help?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 8 or 62.
I believe that this one is over budget due to, this was advertising for the new positions.
But we're still 43%.
Yeah, but it's still part of the general fund, so we're
Right.
still only at
Right.
40%.
But personnel relations, 121%, and I heard higher, a lot of different things in there. Parks, trails, wages and benefits, that's 150% of overtime. That's probably just summer help.
Well, that's going to happen in the
4th of July.
summertime with
4th of
Parks and
July.
Trails. Plus, I think we had somebody on vacation, had a couple vacations in there. I don't like to see overtime this high. And a lot of times we'll take a look at, where this is impacting us and try to budget better for the following year.
Yeah, that's why they recommended going over this, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the July 2024 financial statement.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg,
Yes.
Trustee Harts,
Yes.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Snooks,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes. Moving on to the sales tax reports.
Your sales tax was included in your packet, and it's just trending in a positive direction.
Still.
Still, which is good.
I love that new law.
Right?
Yes. In case you guys were wondering, that new law was that we now get the sales tax for anything that's purchased online. It comes back to the town. And so we have progressively made more and more year over year on it. We currently don't have a lodger's tax, just FYI.
Data safe migration.
Yeah, so Town Attorney Goldman did review the contract actually at our last meeting.
Oh, yes.
And I'll let him speak to what he believes that this migration is either Data Safe's responsibility or the town's.
You may remember that Christine of DataSafe was here last meeting, and she gave some explanation with regard to some of the increased costs under your contract.
Right.
And then she made a pitch with regards to the migration that they had to perform based upon some security glitch, and they had to go to Denver to get assistance. And while she was here, she readily admitted, and she was very transparent about the fact that I don't think this really is part of your contract, but we're asking you to pay $15,000 to help us out with regards to this migration that is ultimately benefiting you. I did look at the contract, and it's correct. There's nothing within the contract that requires you as a town to pay this $15,000. But again, she was here, I think, in all honesty, to just make a pitch to see if there's any contribution or whether there's any amount that the town would be willing to pay. But it's not something you're obligated to do under the contract.
Thank you.
So you can make a motion basically to deny this request, or you can make a motion for portion of it as you see. This is absolutely up to the Board of Trustees.
So while I empathize with what's going on with her business, we are fiscally responsible for the citizens' monies, and I don't think we should pay it as a result. Even though I really do feel for your business, I really do. But it's their money.
I concur with you.
I also agree.
So do you need a motion to deny? I make a Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny the data safe migration for $15,386.75.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg,
No.
It's supposed to be yes.
Oh,
It
yes,
was
sorry.
It was a deny.
A deny, yes.
It's the opposite.
Trustee Harts,
Yes.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Snooks,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
Deny her. Oh, there she is.
I think she said yes.
Yes. Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Laura. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the action agenda. Schroeder release regarding Clover Meadows 7.
Yes, so this is, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
He's got to go.
Sorry.
Yes, so this is pertaining to Clover Meadows Phase 7, the town of Bayfield. So items A and B are essentially the same project. The town is ready to accept the public improvements for Clover Meadows Phase 7. So this includes streets and sidewalks, curb ramps. And so part of that agreement was because they had to pipe the Schroeder Ditch also has to be accept those improvements before we can release the escrow collateral of $160,000 that we're still holding for that project. So we did get a letter on August 2nd from the Schroeder Ditches representative stating that they are good with the improvements for the piping of the ditch. And then you also, so that's item A, and then item B, you received a letter from the town's engineer accepting the public improvements. And then town did put together an agreement that we would like to get a motion for the mayor to be able to sign releasing that collateral. And happy to answer any questions that you have.
Seemed pretty straightforward to me.
Me as well.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Schroeder Ditch release for Clover Meadows Subdivision 7. Should I go on to B or stick with?
I think do them both separate.
Got it.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katsas?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize you to execute the final acceptance of public improvements and release of collateral regarding the subdivision improvement agreement for Clover Meadows Subdivision Phase 7.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Can I get roll call, please?
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katsas?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. What's that? I figure we already made them. Ordinance 503, vacation rentals.
Unless you have any questions. Yeah.
Another straightforward.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 503 vacation rentals.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just that we discussed it earlier in the public
Yes.
forum, in case the audience was wondering.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I was just making a comment for the audience that they knew that we discussed it earlier in the public hearing, and that's why we're not having much discussion now.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Hartz?
Yes.
Trustee Katsas?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes.
And I would also add, if it doesn't seem like there's a lot of discussion, if you look at the packets, there is historical information in there, current information, and the effects in the future. So I would highly recommend that people open up the packets that's on the website every 2 weeks. And it'll provide a lot of background in case you're concerned that there's a lot of discussion going on around certain items, because we've probably discussed it before.
Ordinance 504, sign regulation.
So I think this one, I mean, if you're happy with the 20 feet, then that's how the ordinance is written. If you want to change that, you would just need to ask to amend that ordinance to whatever you're proposing to change.
Well, I like that it's consistent with most of the towns around us.
And I like the fact that, you know, our ordinance is 10 feet
Mhm.
and the road is 10 feet above, so it
Mhm.
kind of keeps that in that same kind of height
Vision.
that the other one, so there's
Yeah.
continuity with it.
Yep.
And I like the fact that our citizens, that if they do have a current sign, they have the ability to come in and ask for I can't think of the word.
Variance.
Variance, thank you. all at once, please.
In stereo.
In stereo. So with
Mr.
that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 504, sign regulation.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Katzos?
Yes.
Trustee Snooks?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin?
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
Yes. Next up is US 160 pedestrian crossing feasibility study.
Yes, as you may all recall, we received a grant from CDOT to look at crossing across from, or next to the pawn shop, and then crossing north to the grocery store. We have a lot of pedestrians that use that access to cross the highway. And this was a two-step grant process. The grant allowed us to do a study to see if there was a warrant for that crossing, and that's based off of pedestrian counts. And then if there is a warrant, then we were able to move forward with some preliminary plans of what kind of safe crossing we could put there for our citizens. Unfortunately, the counts did come back, and there is currently not a warrant. It's close, but there currently is not a warrant. And so to date, that study cost the town $30,276.42. The grant we got is a match, so we do get 50% of that reimbursed back from the state of Colorado. And so that leaves us a little over $29,000 left for that grant, and then the town's match. Originally, when I wrote this, I was asking that you motion to have Matt Nyberg, who sits on the Southwest Regional Transportation Committee, to add this to a future project, because we are getting close to that warrant, that in the future, if it's on the TRP's list, we may be able to get some additional funding to construct it in the future. But I just met with CDOT today. We had a meeting to discuss the intersection, the Bayfield East intersection, and they suggested that we actually ask Trustee Nyberg to go back to the TPR and ask that we use the remaining of that grant to put towards the intersection project. And that was their suggestion. So we're still using it in the town, and we can keep that almost $15,000 extra dollars from CDOT. So I would recommend that you amend that motion that I prepared that asks Trustee Nyberg to add the pedestrian crossing to the TPR's future list, so if there ever is a warrant, we can get some funding for it from the state, but also to ask that the TPR, because they're the ones who would approve that grant, to ask that we can transfer the rest of that grant to the Bayfield East intersection project, which again, we had a kickoff meeting today because of the grant funding. So the grant funding is starting to play out, and we met with CDOT to kick that off. And so that was their suggestion, and I love that suggestion, to keep that money within our community instead of giving it back. So that'd be my recommendation if the board is inclined to do so.
So ask TPR if we can transfer the rest of that grant to...
The Bayfield East intersection project.
And Nicole, is that an alternative to it being used for the pedestrian crossing, should the warrant require it?
Correct. So we do need to have a warrant, show that there's a warrant for a pedestrian crossing at that Bayfield.
Hold on. Can you mute
I think that's Laura.
My PC. Let me see if I can mute. Okay, sorry about that. So to answer that question, so we do still have to show that we have a pedestrian warrant as part of our traffic study for the Bayfield East intersection. And so we can use this funding to pay for our engineers to do that pedestrian study, which won't be as intensive as this one because it's already part of the traffic study. And that Bayfield East intersection is going to connect south to north. We have 2 schools along that roadway, and so that's a perfect candidate for a pedestrian crossing. And so we want to just be able to use this fund. So Matt, I can kind of walk you through that as you get closer to it if the board is wanting to go that route.
And what was the amount?
I'll have to do the math for you, but we have about 29,000 left, but half of that is our responsibility. So my Zoom just shut down,
Your battery died.
which is weird because it's plugged in. Technology's just not on my side.
Like I was telling the attorney.
Okay. I will try and start that Zoom again. So maybe can we take a 5-minute break and let me get Zoom back up and running?
Yes. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Freezing. This is the first night I didn't bring a coat or anything. I didn't bring a sweater. I'm freezing.
Yours in the fall after school started because we wanted to get the
It's still plugged in. I was telling you, these things are.
Ice around me is protecting.
Jinxed us.
That would have been nice. It was like three days.
No, they didn't.
Oh, here it goes. I don't know. Somebody help me.
He just popped out of the closet.
Yeah. No, that light wasn't on before, and it is now. How much? Yeah, I just didn't have it plugged in. It's coming back.
Okay, I was like, I got an extra cord.
Okay, I think it's working. I don't know. Even I don't know what's going on. They did an update. Well, they updated it from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and I'm like, so yeah. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm a fan either.
It's like they can never get the temperature right here for me because either I'm dying of heat or I'm freezing.
There, it's cold, cold, cold.
Oh.
What a night, huh?
Yeah. It's kind of how it goes, right? You just have to kind of like laugh and or cry. I choose laugh.
There's a little bit of both.
I haven't seen one yet. I haven't asked. When I ask him questions,
All right.
like
Everyone should
regarding
still be
work
on Zoom, so we'll see.
And he gets kind
Because
of
Katie's
stressed.
the next host.
It's like, you guys are asking me to do so much work, and you're not paying me any more money.
Dirt Lady Mark.
I want to know what kind of hotels he stayed at. He thought Comfort Inns was that great. What? What was it? I know. Oh God, I hope so. Oh, I hope that. It was awful. Mark calls me. He's like, somebody got murdered in my room. I'm like, huh? Pretty sure that's what happened. Don't. You don't want to know what goes on.
I have mixed emotions.
Yeah, it's better you don't know. It's better that you are totally oblivious.
I was just seeing if you would let me back in.
Recording in progress.
Oh, now it's, everything's working. Okay, we're back up. Okay, we're back up. Mayor, we're back up.
We're waiting. Nyberg's not here, though.
Nicole, you ready? We're back in. Where'd we leave off?
8A.
Wait, did we make a motion?
I don't know if we
No,
had
we're-
that
we're on
motion
eight.
on.
Oh,
Yeah.
The pedestrian
7E. Did we get?
I don't think we
I think we got cut off when.
Yeah.
So I think the two things is ask Trustee Nyberg to add to the TPR.
oh, that's right.
The pedestrian crossing for a possible future project. There may be a warrant at some point in time as we grow. And then that way it'd be available for funding at that time. And then ask the TPR to allow the town to transfer the MMOF grant funding, the rest of that grant funding, and I'll get you an actual amount, Trustee Nyberg, transfer that to the Bayfield East signal project, which we do also have to show that there's a pedestrian warrant in order to do pedestrian crossing at that new signal. So transfer the funds and be able to use it for that project. It was the same consultant, SCH Engineering was doing both, so it'd be going to the same consultant to do similar work, but it's not as detailed as the pedestrian crossing because it's part of a traffic study. So
just clarity, add them to the TPR project list and ask for it to apply, the
Yeah.
grant to apply to the
add
Bayfield
that
East intersection.
mid crossing to the list, and then ask to use the current grant funding, transfer it from the mid block study to the Bayfield East signal project. And I'll get Trustee Nyberg the actual amounts.
I'll see if I can actually do this motion. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion requesting that Trustee Nyberg, who is our town representative for TPR, Southwest Transportation Planning Region, to add this project, the mid-crossing project, to the Southwest TPR project list. So now, so that in the future, when there is a warrant for the crossing, additional funding may be available to construct it. And ask TPR if we can transfer the rest of the grant to the Bayfield East intersection project.
Hot dog.
Second.
I'll second.
I think Snooks got it first.
I didn't hear him, okay.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg,
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Katzos.
Yes.
Trustee Snooks,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes. Personnel and Planning Commission.
Yeah, okay, so. Are you in the middle of something? Just mute. Town board meeting, but, yeah, ready to mute.
Hey, oh, she muted, okay. Yeah, I just wanted, as I mentioned in my monthly update, that Commissioner Tish Nelson, who'd served on the Plan Commission for quite a long time, has resigned from the Plan Commission. So we will definitely miss her and her input and support of the town and the town's codes. But we are looking for a new planning commissioner. So again, if anyone's interested, talk to Kristen Dallison or send her an email with a brief resume or a reason why you're interested in the planning commission.
You don't need anything else from us at this point?
No, just
Community Development Director Nicole Killian, resignation.
Yes, so we have actually posted for that position this week, and we'll be hiring for that. The position's open for 2 weeks. Any questions on that?
No,
Just for confirmation, though, that hire is done by the town manager, correct? The town board doesn't have any responsibility for that, correct? Okay, just wanted to just clarify that for everybody to understand.
Well, I don't know if the public noticed, but in every project that is presented, you hear and grant funding, and grant funding, and grant funding. And Nicole has been a big part of getting us grant money, and this is going to be a great loss to our community. And I'm going to be really sad to see her go.
Me too.
Thank you.
But we wish you well, Nicole.
And I'm coming to visit.
Yeah, we're super excited you're going to your happy place.
Utility Customer Service, Glenn Lewis, resignation.
Yes, we are also posting for this position. I think the end date is today. And so we're going to work this week to select applicants and then do interviews next week.
So happy you're here.
Thank you.
Town manager contract. Katie, would you like to go into executive session?
Last week, I sent each of the board members some material and suggested that since this is a personnel issue, that perhaps a motion should be made by one of the trustees to go into executive session. There needs to be a second, and then a majority of the board present needs to vote to do that. If the majority says, no, we don't want to go in executive session, it would be improper to discuss a personnel issue in a regular meeting, so it would go by the wayside for the most part. So I'll leave it to the Board of Trustees to decide how they want to proceed.
So does the board want to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session upon motion and affirmative vote of 2 to 3 of the quorum present. Executive session regarding discussion of town manager Katie Sickles' possible contract termination pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses F, parentheses I, concerning personnel matters, except if the employee who is the subject of the session has requested an open meeting, or if the personnel matter involves more than one employee. All the employees have requested an open meeting, and if necessary, CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B, concerning conference with an attorney for the local public body for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions over possible contract termination set forth herein.
I'd second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Nyberg,
Yes.
Trustee Hartz.
Yes.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Snooks,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
I think she said yes.
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes.
So there's been provision to go upstairs for executive session, and that way we can properly record separately. And my suggestion is that your HR person attend for the personnel matter, and Ms. Sickles is also, should also attend.
Okay. Yep.
So this Zoom meeting will probably end and it will pick back up.